Shalom. President Obama gave a speech in Cairo today about the Middle East, and there were a few positive things about it and a lot of negative things about it, and I wanted to just give you from my perspective the positive and the negative. On the positive side, basically he said, and I understand he's desirous of trying to bring moderate Muslims into an acceptable orbit of cooperation. He said, American ties with Israel are unbreakable. Well, that was positive. He said the actions of violent extremist Muslims are irreconcilable with the rights of human beings. That's good. He said Hamas must put an end to violence, recognize past agreements, and recognize Israel's right to exist. He said of the organization that the United States deems as a terrorist, although he didn't explicitly call them terrorists. He said the Palestinian Authority must develop its capacity to govern with institutions that serve the needs of its people. That's good. He said that Arab nations should no longer use the conflict with Israel to distract their own people from other problems. That's good too. So what was negative? Well, lots. He omitted the idea that Israel is an ally of the United States. He did not refer to Hamas as a terrorist organization. He uttered the completely naive stupidity, in my view, of a world without nuclear weapons, which would be a world of medieval horror as evil would win out over good. He continued down the same path of pandering to evil regimes instead of taking them to task. He basically advocated the ridiculous idea that East Jerusalem should be internationalized. He actually said Jerusalem, but I give him the benefit of the doubt that he meant East Jerusalem. He said as for Jerusalem itself, he said it should be a secure and lasting home for Jews, Christians, and Muslims. Well, it is right now. But you make it international, and the only ones that will be blocked out of it are Jews and Christians. His stand on settlements, he said Israel must acknowledge that it must accept the legitimacy of that continued, the United States does not accept the legitimacy of continued Israeli settlements. It's time for those settlements to stop. Well, some of them are big cities, and some of them are part of Jerusalem large. There's no reason why Israel can't give back, keep 4% of the West Bank where 75% of those people live, but for the President of the United States to unilaterally say any natural growth of those settlements is not permitted, who's he to say that? And who says that that land belongs to anybody else? It wasn't Jordanian land. It was between 48 and 67, but who said it was before? Why can Jews not live there? He said Islam is not part of the problem in combating violent extremism. It's an important part of promoting peace. What a crock. Go listen to any mosque any day and listen to the violence advocated by the clerics in those mosques against Jews, against Israel, against the United States. How can he say that? What is Islam? I mean, there's plenty of violence in Islam, it's inherent in Islam. Now, maybe all Muslims are not violent, probably true, and maybe there are aspects of Islam that are promoting peace, but to say that Islam is not part of the problem in combating violent extremism, it is the problem, and Muslims have to take that seriously. What about religious freedom? You didn't acknowledge anything about the freedom of religion in Israel and the protection of Christian and Muslim holy sites, but that virtually there's no freedom of religion in any Arab country. Saudi Arabia doesn't permit the practice of any religion except Islam. Our American troops who want to read from the Christian Bible, they have to keep it in a brown paper bag lest they offend any Muslims. What's that about? And then he tried to be even-handed. The even-handedness destroys any moral or ethical consideration of Israel's no choice but defense of the Jewish people. Or his even-handedness destroyed the notion that Israel was made up of refugees, but the Palestinians are victimized by Israel to this day. Well, in what way? All they'd have to do to have a Palestinian state is stop the violence. I tried to be even-handed about the tragedy of the Holocaust, where 6.25 million Jews were butchered. Trying to compare that to what's happening to the Palestinians is ridiculous. If Palestinians were in Nazi Germany, they would have been exterminated. Imagine the Nazis pulling out of territories in which Palestinians lived. And about Iran, which is the most egregious stupidity of this speech. He declared that Iran has legitimacy in pursuing nuclear development to power its oil-rich country, despite the fact that it's been proven that they are pursuing nuclear weapons. Israel is right now in the middle of simulated missile attacks, and the president is telling the world that Iran is not a major threat to the world. The real ticking bomb of Iran has not been addressed. Here was Obama's chance to put the Iran on the agenda of the world, and he bombed. The Arab countries, that's what they're worried about, the Iranian bomb, and Obama completely ignored it. And then just a couple of small items, but I think they loom pretty large. He quoted the Quran supposedly saying you destroy one life by saving another. Well, that was in the Mishnah 700 years before anyone ever heard of the Quran. And he talked about how to love Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and might is in the Christian Bible. It's from the Jewish Bible. He praised Muslims for their Nobel Prize winners, which has been about 1/100th of how many Jewish Nobel Prize winners there's been, and about their major contributions to culture. Well, what's been their contributions in the last 1,000 years? Did he mention anything about the slave trade going on or in Muslim nations today? Or that Jews and Christians are considered dhimmi, second-class citizens in Muslim countries? Now, this is not to say that Islam's all bad. I'm sure there's a lot of very good Muslims, and they're trying hard to bring about a peaceful world. But the president simply covered up the facts, slanted the facts, and the negative way outweighed the positive. This was a horrible speech, in my opinion, and it will not contribute to world peace in any way.